Um, Hello. Let me check that we're actually doing alright on the old tubes. Yes, awesome. Um, Hello. How is everybody doing? Taking a sec to kick in. There we go. Sorted. Hello. How's things? How's your week been? How's life? How's the universe? How's everything? Um, let's YouTube telling me I'm live. Good. And YouTube telling me I'm live via email. Awesome. Yeah. How is everybody? How's things? How's your week been? Hello, Rodrigo and/or Beowulf. How you doing, man? I'm glad that you definitely resisted your urge to say first, and you know didn't say it. Wait a second. Hi. How you doing? Hello, Horizon Zero Gamer. Hello. My chat on uh screen is working a lot better than my chat on my screen. Um, so I might have to read from here instead of on thing. But hello, Stefano. How you doing, man? I'm doing okay. I am in a lot of physical pain, which is not great, but I am roughly doing okay. I've been busy today, a lot of editing. Actually, a really interesting video that I enjoyed making and researching, and enjoy. Hopefully, you will enjoy watching as well. So, yeah. Hello, Chris. How you doing, man? How's things? That one. Yeah. How's it doing? Well, I kind of answered that question, but okay, it's fine. But yeah, it is. In lots of physical pain, is that, wow, yeah, pretty much. As much as I don't want it to be, kinda, yeah. Well, it varies. So I did a car video yesterday on sort of bleeding my car's brakes properly. Um, and today has just been dealing with me doing any amount of physical work. Um, so yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately. Hello, hello, Cybertron. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Um, and yes, hello, Cybertron. How you doing, man? How's the editing? Hello, Simon. How you doing, man? Is it safe to overclock RAM from 1333 MHz to 1600? I assume you're talking about DDR3, in which case, in theory, yes. By pushing your memory harder, you are potentially you have the main thing is potential for instability. The overclock not sticking essentially, which shouldn't cause any problems in terms of any of the components' lifespans, but will be very annoying when you run into trying to play a game or whatever, and then half an hour into it kicks out. So yeah, yeah. But yes, it's safe-ish. Hello, Phil. I actually packed it today. I packed it while dealing with a lot of physical pain, so I hope you appreciate that. But no, it's packed up and ready to go. It's 5 a.m. 5 a.m. here. You're starting earlier. No, it's just daylight savings. It is still 8 p.m. here in the UK. It's just daylight savings mean I am doing it at +1 GMT rather than 0 GMT. So yeah. And I'm sorry if it's a what do you call it? I was your I suppose Friday morning alarm clock. Apologies there. um, Editing's going great. Nice. Spent a lot of time making new assets since this was the first video cast. Looking great so far. Nice. I'm looking forward to watching it and seeing how damn I look on camera. I've been trying to overclock my CPU and RAM today. I could get Infinity Fabric to 1900, but not RAM to 3800 megahertz. Could get about 4.25 gigahertz all core without mad volts on my 3800X. Interesting, nice. That's pretty cool. On a 3800X, that's definitely not bad. I'm kind of used to the 5th gen Ryzen speeds because that's what I've been benchmarking. So fair enough and decent. Shame about your RAM. What speed is your memory set to? Is it 3600? Like what frequency was your kit when you? Hello, I have a strange issue with my PC. When I turn it off, every PCI device with RGB begins to flicker like crazy until I unplug my cable from my power supply. Could you give any suggestions? Interesting. Interesting. If I had to make that is a very definitely a strange strange problem for sure. And the what you call it? It's a very strange problem to have, and so without having that system in front of me and an oscilloscope, it's going to be hard for me to diagnose exactly what's going wrong. Off the top of my head, that sounds like a bit of a strange power supply issue. It sounds like it's still leaking current into the system at a potentially very strange voltage or strange wave, essentially. Because it should just be DC, but if it's effectively current leakage, then it could be potentially AC current leaking into your motherboard. I'm hesitant to say whether it's that would be a significant problem or not, and whether just switching it off at the... Actually, that's a good idea. If you switch it off at the power supply with a little switch, does it still happen, or does it happen with the switch on, or does it not with it off? That's what I'm trying to say. Vincent, I will not remove the slow mode because it's only every 15 seconds or something, and we have had many a raid where bots like to spam stuff, so it's just better if it stays that way, and I think people can wait 15 seconds between comments. Yeah. After how many days or months do you clean the dust out of your PC? So I have a relatively dust-free room. I don't have carpets. I'm generally the only one that's in here, and I just don't have that problem. So the solution. I don't really get dust on my PC, so I don't think I've actually cleaned it out except for when I rebuilt it relatively recently. So for me, couple of months. Actually, probably a bit more than that. On a normal system, it would be kind of once, twice a month, depending on how dirty it gets. So yeah. Also hello Luca, I didn't say hello to you. Hello Hornet, how you doing, man? Hello Swap. I'm sorry that I said that wrong. And thank you very much for joining. Yeah, even though it's relatively pretty late. So thank you very much, and I'm sorry for butchering your name. Hello, indeed. Up to how much voltage would you use on a 5600X? Can't get it stable at 4.7 gigahertz at 1.3 volts. I don't do much overclocking on. Well, actually, I just don't do overclocking these days. I'm gonna have to refer to the audience there. What's a safe voltage on 5th gen Ryzen? Because I don't remember. Like, I'm pretty sure 1.5 is definitely too high, but I could also be... I mean, so I've got a 3900X on my PC right now. I need to swap it out for 5900X, but we'll get to that. Where is... so apparently my core voltage has peaked at 1.494 volts, and the average is 1.4, so I would say 1.4 is probably safe, maybe 1.375 depending on what you're doing, but yeah. 1.5 is very much too high. I think I remember that from the first gen Ryzen. That was like, if you want the absolute maximum, you want it to explode, then yes, go 1.5. Otherwise, 1.45, 1.4 was highest, the recommended. What are your specs? Like I said, Ryzen 3900X, although I'll be swapping out for a 5900X that I bought, shockingly, relatively soon whenever I can get around to it. What you call it? Apparently my the Automod Euro Robot is a banned term. Interesting. Anyway, I'm running an RTX 2080 at the moment, Gigabyte X570 Master motherboard, and Viper VP4100, 1TB, I think. What else? WD SN700 1TB, and a Rocket Q4 4TB, or a Rocket Q 4TB as my games drive. That's kind of the most of it, really. Why are RTX 30 series card so hard to get these days? The main reason is effectively supply issue, but it's a supply and demand issue. There is a whole load of people who want those new cards, and there is only a finite production capacity and production capacity allotted to manufacture those cards, and there is a very big imbalance there. There is a lot more demand than there is supply, and so until that can level out, or essentially supply will stay the same, but until demand goes down, as the people who are getting the supplied cards obviously don't need them anymore, then as it comes down, they will then become in stock. Where are we at? Yes, pressing the on-off switch on the power supply solves the problem, but it's a little uncomfortable. Got you. What? So I was ascertaining that because if it still happens with the power supply switch on in the off position, then that's a very bad time, and you should definitely not use your system, because that is a very serious current leak that could potentially electrocute you. With that said, I'm glad that does solve it. I would still, again, it's very hard for me to diagnose without the PC in front of me and, you know, a multimeter to probe it. So the only thing that I can suggest at the moment is what you call it? That it is in relation to the power supply, and it's effectively off states. That they are meant to provide some power to motherboards to be able to things like run the LEDs while the system is off, and that sort of thing, but it's not meant to be A, much power, and B, it's still meant to be DC regulated, you know, 12 volts, 5 volts, 3.3 volts, ground, and minus 12 volts, so it should be standard, but it's clearly not, so yeah. I'm running 1.27 with Zen 2 Ryzen 3000. Fair. I should make it clear I'm running stock. I'm not running any overclocks, any custom configurations at all, beyond XMP enabled. Does the i7 7700 work well with the GTX 1070 at 1080? So actually, I have a video coming out on explaining bottlenecks, because I think that people will be interested in understanding that. The long story short is that bottlenecks are not simple and clear cut, right? A bottleneck is not X part will bottleneck X GPU, like X CPU will bottleneck Y GPU, right? It's a balance, and there is always going to be a bottleneck, even if you had a 5950X or an 11900K, not that you'd want to, but you know, or 10900K, whatever, and RTX 3090 or RX 6900 XT. when a new graphics card comes out and you pop in a 4090 or 7900 XT, you're going to get more performance out of your system without having to upgrade your CPU. And technically, likewise, upgrading the CPU will offer more performance out of that same graphics card, potentially. The thing about gaming specifically is that it's really a GPU intensive task for the most part. Most CPUs these days are good enough that you're getting 95 to 100% performance out of your graphics card, and so you are having a slower, older CPU like a 7700, especially with what is now a kind of relatively mid-range card. A GTX 1080 is what, 2070-ish levels of performance, maybe even 2060 Super, which is now like superseded by a decent margin by even the RTX 3060. So it's a sort of mid-range card, and that is what I'd still probably call a low to mid-range CPU. So long story short, yes, that is a good pairing. I would be fine with that, but I think it is good to explain what a bottleneck is, and that it's not clear cut is probably the important thing to understand. Perhaps bottleneck might depend on current I/O. For example, even just using storage and DPU at the same time and other PCIe devices. So technically, yes, it depends on what devices you're using and the utilization of that. Storage bottlenecks are a different type of bottleneck that a lot of people don't necessarily consider, but it's very rare for the average gamer to exceed PCIe bandwidth limitations, full stop, let alone, in a fairly standard configuration. That would be a problem if they were running the graphics card and an M.2 SSD through the chipset and the chipset alone, but most CPUs offer direct x16 access to the CPU, and the SSDs are either directly connected or via the chipset, but either way it's a separate link that the CPU has more than enough PCIe lanes and capacity to handle, so I wouldn't be worried about that one. AMD stock voltage is always too generous. I kind of agree. I think AMD's stock voltage is typically for single-threaded, hovers around 1.4, and lowers for all-core. Potentially, the voltage readout that I was reading at 1.5 was across every core, although AMD does a good job of boosting, single core on lots of different cores, so potentially, but like I said, my average voltage that Hardware Info reported was 1.4 on all of them, so yeah. And I've rendered 2 videos today, so I've been using it. Will AMD be better optimized for productivity and match equivalent NVIDIA cards? If, when, and how much? So the trouble with AMD GPUs from a productivity standpoint is mostly the software compatibility. So NVIDIA GPUs support CUDA. It is CUDA cores that they list, and effectively NVIDIA put in a lot of R&D time and money into making sure that every productivity program that has any level of GPU acceleration uses CUDA to do that. Now AMD doesn't have access to CUDA, they can't use it, and so they tend to use which one is it? OpenCL, because OpenGL is graphics, I think. OpenCL is compute. Anyway, they use that instead, but that is pretty underutilized, definitely under-optimized, and not always available where CUDA may be. For example, there are a few programs that basically only have any level of GPU acceleration built into them because NVIDIA helped them develop that with them essentially. So that is something to be aware of. You can buy a Radeon Pro card if that's a consideration, and they have a bit better support for that acceleration in workload tasks, but it is still, because of the landscape, it's still kind of difficult to beat Nvidia's marketing power. I lost track since AMD brought out PCI Gen 4. Fair play. Even with the Ryzen 1st gen and 2nd gen CPUs, they still had 16 lanes direct from the CPU for graphics, or for your x16 slots, and what you call it? Come on, brain. And 4 lanes for the top M.2 slot, and then they use the other 4 lanes to the chipset. What are your CPU and GPU temperatures while gaming, and are you overclocking? So no, I'm not overclocking. My CPU temperature, I think, sits at like 70 degrees while gaming, and GPU, I think, is like 80, 85, give or take. Why does downloading games increase CPU usage? Because you're not just downloading straight files. Programs like Steam compress the data as much as they can to limit bandwidth usage and to be able to effectively download quicker. And so what someone like Steam or Epic Games or whatever else are doing are sending you compressed files, and then your CPU unbundles them and writes them to disk. So that's why. Is it worth upgrading from a 3600X to a 5600X? So, what are you doing with your CPU? Or what are you doing with your system, I suppose? And it encrypts them. Good point. I do want an all-rounder. So, at this point in time, NVIDIA is likely a better shout for the what do you call it? Both being a productivity and a gaming card. You'd probably be okay with any of the RX series cards, if you're have a good balance of productivity and gaming, but it's unlikely to be perfect. Just gaming. So you're probably better off saving a touch more money and buying a 3060 or 3070, assuming you don't already have one, when they're in stock. You will get a lot more performance out of upgrading your GPU than you will your CPU. If you were doing streaming, editing, etc., anything severely CPU intensive, then the argument could be made to upgrade to your CPU, but for the most part, it doesn't make much sense for most people. Do you own any dual BGA GPUs? No, I do not. I have been doing this for a very long time, but I'm also not someone who tends to purchase too much hardware. I don't really care for old things, and I'm still relatively small, and so I definitely wasn't big enough to be sampled any dual GPUs, 5 or 10 years ago when they actually were happening. I play Apex at 144 Hz and I get 65 to 70 degree temps in Apex. My friend said that's very bad. Is this true? No, that is perfectly fine. That is pretty reasonable for gaming. So yeah, it's fine. Is a UPS battery backup worth it? And if I do not have it and I get power outages, my computer shuts down because of the power outage, will it damage the hardware? Right, so a battery backup is only generally worth it for effectively 2 main reasons, right? The first one is you're running critical infrastructure to yourself. So in my case, I will at some point be getting a battery backup for my new Threadripper NAS, effectively my production server. The other reason to get it is that you consistently have power outages. It's likely not going to save you from having to stop playing games especially if you have long power outages, but it will mean that you can shut down your computer, save the last bits of your work, whatever else, before it goes off. So if you're in either of those categories, then yes, go ahead and buy one. Does it damage your computer to be shut off from the wall? Not really. The main thing that I would be concerned with is power surges, which is when it rushes back on, or as it goes out, if the power becomes unstable, essentially, then you having something like a battery backup or a UPS will mean that will help regulate that power into the system, and that will be a sizable benefit in terms of the lifespan of your hardware. So if you have known unstable or unclean power, or you're running critical infrastructure, then yes, buy one. Otherwise, nah, who cares, right? What are your thoughts on cloud gaming? My brother has a £100 potato laptop and he get 120 FPS in games due to this. Nice. So cloud gaming makes some sense for sure. I would not say that it is going to be the next thing. Like, it's not going to replace gaming PCs out and out, at least not in the next probably 5, 10, maybe 15 years. And the main reason for that is latency. And honestly, it's kind of a physics problem more than a technology problem. So Google Stadia is probably one of the most legit. I suppose there's GeForce Now from Nvidia, but same difference, different companies. Those offer effectively the bleeding edge in terms of game streaming technology, and you still get 200 milliseconds of input lag. Not my favorite. With that said, for like you say, for the sort of person who cannot afford a high power, gaming system, it is a very good way to get into gaming, or to have access to something that you wouldn't necessarily have access to otherwise. The argument could be made that it's potentially ends up more expensive in the long run. You end up in closed ecosystems, things like that. But I'm also cognizant that not everybody has the opportunities and viewpoints that I have. So, yeah. If it works for you, fair enough. Sweet. What are your thoughts on the Razer Death Adder Essential? I can't say that I've seen the Essential version, so I'm not sure. From me using the Death Adder, the standard Death Adder in the past, it's been pretty decent. I end up using a Razer Naga Trinity myself. I prefer a few more buttons, and ergonomic shape works for me. But yeah, I don't think I have anything bad to say about it. A 11400 or 11600K for video editing. So the 11600K is going to be a better shout there, for sure. The only thing that I'd mention is, if video editing is a priority for you, technically, while the Ryzen 5600X is a more expensive CPU, if you're buying the 11600K, you might end up buying a Z series motherboard. And if you do that, and also you'll need a more powerful CPU cooler, by the time you add all that up, you can buy a 5600X and a B550 motherboard and 3600 MHz RAM instead of 3200 on the 11600K, because that's the maximum that you can have before your warranty's damn voided. So yeah, that'd be my recommendation there. Hello Dante, how you doing, man? How's things? How's the Hyundai? I have no idea what my ambient temperature is in Fahrenheit. It's like 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, depending how hot it is or how cold it is. Those two rigs in the background look awesome. Thank you very much. That one's my test PC, and that one is a other one. What's your opinion on 16:10 aspect ratio? So I actually tested a ROG Flow X13. I think that was the video that came out on Monday. Feel free to go check it out after the stream. And that has a 16:10 display as well, and I didn't like it, is the short answer. 16:9 is the standard for content. It is, for me personally, a pretty nice balance between being widescreen and being, not letterbox. Don't get me wrong, I very much enjoy ultrawides. I have one over there. But from a standard content consumption perspective, having 16:9 displays is very nice. I think I would be happy to use a 16:10 display vertically. But otherwise you end up with black bars, games that don't really work on the form factor because not many things that have 16:10. And it's not a great experience. Yeah. With Ryzen 5 Pro and the 4650G or 11600K, what discrete graphics card would you compare it to? Honestly, I haven't tested the iGPUs, but it is my understanding that AMD still has what you might call a competitive edge in the iGPU space. Hello Essentialist, how you doing, man? Vertical monitors, I'm leaving. I've got a vertical monitor. That's what I read all your Discord comments on. No, but seriously, don't hate. It's fantastic. Oh, Phil, don't date us. When would be the right time to decide on multiple monitors? Yesterday. I am, let's say, a great advocate for multiple monitors. I have 3 right now. If I could have more, I definitely would. But yeah, they're fantastic. Even just having a second monitor is a very good benefit to using your PC, right? Like, if you're just playing games, then cool, you can now have Discord and Spotify or YouTube or whatever else open on one and your game on the other. If you're streaming as well, then cool, you can now have OBS, or in my case, Streamlabs OBS open while you're playing your game on the other. If you want to be doing work, then if you're, I don't know, like working from Excel and writing up a document, well, you can have Word on one screen and Excel on the other. Like, it is so practical, efficient, and useful, and I just can't, recommend it enough. Nice one. And yes, it is. I'm still waiting for my jabs before I can happily, come and visit people and do things. But yeah, it's looking forward to it. Oh, actually, that's the point. For the people who watch the At the Wheel channel, I've mentioned on the last few streams that I'm planning on doing a track day with my S4. I have now booked that track day. There is still space available if you would also like to come on a track day and happen to be the one that I'm going to. It's at Donington. It's on the 7th of June. So if you would like to come and, you know, race around Donington alongside me and some friends, then feel free to book away, jump in, and yeah, be good. Oh yeah, I'll stick the link to that track day in where is it? 7th of June. Here we go. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. That one. There you go. There's the track day that I'll be going to if you did want to sign up. That one and that one. Hello, Sansia? I'm sorry that I probably said your name wrong. My apologies. Feel free to correct me on how to say it. Yes, I'm a full-time YouTuber, or professional. I've been doing it full-time for, Jesus, 5 years? 6 years? Too long. And no sign of stopping. So yeah, that's I'm one of the 3 other viewers. Yeah, fair enough. Pro, yeah, I don't know about that, mate. But yes, and I'm quite close to that 100k. I'm very excited, and thank you all for subscribing and you know, watching the videos. Sounds sus. Yeah. I just bought an Asus XG32VC, so I'm now running 240p and 4K. Ooh, very nice. Very fancy. How much do I make from all of my businesses and YouTube? That's probably one that I don't fancy answering. Enough to survive, but I'm certainly not rich. There you go. Why does my monitor keep blanking out? So there are a great many reasons. The first question I'd ask is, what connection are you using? Is it HDMI, DisplayPort, DVI, VGA, whatever else? Not enough, otherwise I'd have a job. Well, yeah, pretty much, yeah. Look, I got down a job with Locally. We need to come up with a different business idea that can make it a job for you, okay? HDMI, got you, right. So, with HDMI, there, when you connect up your monitor, it does effectively a training and like handshake between your devices. What do you call it? But if you have a sorry, I just read. There it is. What do you call it? I've forgotten the question now. Come on, brain. HDMI, right, Christ. So, if you're using a relatively low quality HDMI cable, what can happen is it will arrange a connection, but it will then drop out. I can't be certain that is what is happening. But if you are using a cheaper HDMI cable, try using a different one, or it's a there's a, what do you call it? It's relatively inexpensive to go and buy another reasonable HDMI cable and try that, rather than trying to say, you know, well, go and buy a new monitor or whatever, right? Monitors should have skipped HDMI. I agree with you, but I also understand why they didn't. HDMI is the universal standard for digital video. I really wish that it was DisplayPort, because that is so much better. It's royalty free. I don't understand why it's not, but it is the standard. And so having, like, when you have a console that only ships with an HDMI port, yeah, like laptops often only have HDMI. Like, it's sure there wasn't much choice. I would agree with you on the connectors as well, yeah. I'll run the TCGB OnlyFans. I'm not Linus. I don't have the clout to make a meme and make 20 grand or whatever it was. Yeah, no. How old are you? I don't remember. I think I'm younger than 25, but not by much. I think. I don't remember. I'll show myself out. Please do. No, I don't really. And yes, Ish, on the scale of 5 to 10 Lambos, how many do you get to yeet into the river every month? Do you know, actually, it's 100 Lambos a month. It's just, it's the way I roll, yo. Yeah, no. Just flex your biceps. No. You don't remember how old you are? I'm at the point where I've stopped caring enough to remember, and so I then have to work it out every time. And I also have ADHD, so I forget. Like, the reason why I can answer a question and then my mind goes blank, and I'm just staring going, what was I saying? Is because of that. Yeah. Don't remember. Youngster. Yeah. Is the quality of HDMI to DisplayPort cable will be on an extended monitor? If I reword the question, I believe yes, as long as the HDMI to DisplayPort cable or adapter is good enough quality. Right, so it is, as long as it is a good quality connection, that is digital signal to digital signal, and that works just fine. Michael, I very, very rarely have power outages. The power generally across, the UK is pretty stable, and I have lived on. I've lived at the bottom, middle, and top of it, and at no point have I had significant problems with power stability. So, I don't get that problem personally. Yeah. Can you suggest me any online earning app? No. I am not an what do we call them? Affiliate marketer. Yeah, nah. Michael, I am indeed. It is definitely a good position to be in for sure. And I certainly don't envy anyone who doesn't have as the benefit that I receive. Luca, was the insurance part of the standard checkout, or was that something separate? And also, please let me know how much the insurance is, because I'd be interested to know. Because I didn't see that, and I haven't done it yet. But it's probably a pretty good idea. Are you impressed by the 11600K matches the 5600X? So I am. The one thing that it doesn't, the one thing that it doesn't match in is still power consumption. It's still, was it like double, pretty much. So that, like, it means that you are going to be spending more on a better cooler, essentially. The fact that they still have the locked SKUs, essentially, with locked motherboards on top of that, like, not only do you have to pay more money for an unlocked CPU, but you then have to pay even more money for an unlocked motherboard, and that just rubs me the wrong way. With that said, its out-and-out performance is great to see. The balance is definitely a lot closer, and the fact that it is £50 or £100 cheaper than the 5600X, at least chip for chip, forgetting the rest of the things you need to run it. I'm definitely impressed with their i5 lineup, essentially, and the 11400F does look like an absolute steal by comparison. So, yeah. Is it a good time to invest in Bitcoin? I'm definitely the wrong person to ask. With with that said, it's pretty much at an all-time high. With that also said, there are acceptance of it is becoming a lot more commonplace, and yeah, it could continue to go up. With that said, this is not financial advice. Don't listen to me. I'm an idiot, and I definitely don't know what I'm talking about. So don't take investment advice from me. How much RAM is good for a gaming laptop? 16 is pretty much the minimum I would get in a laptop. If you can push for if you can push for what you call it, 32, if you're planning on keeping the laptop for a long time and it's a sort of higher end one, then yeah, but 16 should be fine for most applications. And thank you, Phil. What is a good budget graphics card? So the problem with that question right this very second is that everything is out of stock, and so everything is just difficult to get a hold of, and so realistically there isn't a good answer to that question because there just isn't any cards that you can buy. If the market wasn't insane, the RTX 3060 doesn't seem like a bad shout for sure. So yeah, it depends what your budget is, like what you count as a budget graphics card. You have to get it separate. I'm looking at a quote at the moment that says start some 67.50 a day. Okay, fair. I will have a look for sure. What's the easiest way to get a PS5? With money. In terms of stock, I don't think that it's very available. So being very fast on your F5 key on whatever store is near to you, but yeah. Hello, Starman. How you doing, man? Glad to see you. How are you? How's things? And I'm glad that you're enjoying your PS5 and 55-inch OLED. Nice one. That's awesome. The best value graphics card, buy one last year, the 5700. Ooh, yeah. And hello, Mitchell. How you doing, man? How's things? Joker said there might be a shortage of RAM in the near future. So what was it? What's his name? Salazar. Greg, that's the one. Said that he noticed a slight increase in price on DDR4. So that could potentially indicate supply problems coming through. With that said, we are 6 to 12 months away from having DDR5 becoming available and in stock in market. So there may be a potential for just DDR4 production is ramping down slightly to allow for some DDR5 production to come into play. So we'll see, I think, is the answer. Essentialist has provided us a very good reminder. Check that your RAM is running at its quoted speeds and enable XMP if it's not. Cyberpunk fried my 6800. Damn, what happened? Like, how did it fry it? I pray at the dark altar of Santa. Lol. Which chips will do that? So it's gonna be from the rumors anyway. potentially even late this year, Zen 3 Plus may have a new I/O die that will allow for DDR5 or will require DDR5, and so it'll be a new set of motherboards. I'm a bit suspicious of that. Zen 4 will definitely be DDR5, and so that will be sort of mid to late 2022, so a year and a half ish away. That will, and also the Alder Lake CPUs from Intel, the next generation 12th gen chips that are, I think their mobile chips are due to come out late this year, pretty much, whereas their desktop chips are probably this time next year, where again we'll see DDR5. So I think Intel may have maybe on the early edge of adoption on that one, although the rumor says that Alder Lake chips will support both DDR4 and DDR5, much like Skylake did for DDR3 and DDR4, although technically Skylake supported DDR3L low power. My understanding is that Alder Lake will support both full DDR4 and full DDR5. So yeah. Samsung had to shut down their fab, the storms 1 to 2 months ago, and will not be back in full production until at least May. Prices have been creeping up since January. Thank you very much for the insight. That explains a lot, actually. And yeah, that's potentially we might see that price rise over time. I'm thinking of removing 32 gig of my memory and only running 32 gig. Fair? How come? What? Why remove memory? Which laptop is best for gaming? It entirely depends on your budget. The Asus Strix G15 is one that I've reviewed relatively recently and is a very nice combination of price and performance. So that's my initial go-to recommendation at the moment anyway. After character creations, I tried to move the system. Okay, that's definitely strange. Interesting, Luca. Do you think 8 gigabytes of VRAM will be good enough for a few years yet with 1440p high quality gaming? So I've actually been running into some issues. So I have an RTX 2080 which has 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and one, for me personally, I use Premiere, and the version of Premiere that I'm on, potentially the graphics driver, there is a VRAM memory leak when you're using accelerated transitions, and it's driving me up the wall. but so basically I'm running out of VRAM when I edit videos, but more importantly, I've been benchmarking a lot of games, and specifically Watch Dogs Legion not only tells you how much VRAM it expects to use, but it also tells you how much it actually uses with its built-in benchmark. And even at 1080p, at ultra settings and with 110 FOV, it can literally be using 8 gigabytes of VRAM. I think it's 8,063 megabytes it reckons it uses through a benchmark run. So it's running out of VRAM if you only have 8 gigs, which is insane. It will vary game to game. Watch Dogs Legion is a very open world game with a lot of assets and that sort of stuff, so bear that in mind. But from a future safe standpoint, 8 gigs might actually not be enough, especially at 1440p. Which mic is good for voiceovers? The Elgato Wave 1 and Wave 3. That's what I'm using now. The Wave 3. I ran Skylake on DDR3. Yeah, so you can. It was just running standard DDR3, the higher power, not DDR3L, has the potential to wear the memory controller on the CPU more. Obviously, if you don't care about it, then it's fine. It's something to bear in mind. What camera are you using? I'm using a Sony A50 100. I've recently upgraded to it. There is a video on that coming out next Wednesday. As well as the Elgato ring light that you can see in my glasses. That one. So yeah. Understandable, Mitchell. What's the import process like in terms of fees and that sort of thing? I gained 15 FPS from enabling XMP. Damn, son. Oof. SAP, what connection are you using? Are you using HDMI? Love the quality. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm using the Sony A5100 with the stock kit lens zoomed into 26mm, and I'm using an Elgato Camlink 4K to capture it. SAP, I'm using DisplayPort. Gotcha. So have you just got the monitor, or has it started happening? Has it just started happening? Oh, it's not here. It's on this camera. I've been using a Sony RX100 Mark 5A for a good year or so. It was a really good purchase, and the reason that I got it was that it can do 1000 FPS at 1080p or 1080p, which is really useful for me testing stuff like monitors. So that was the main reason I got it, but it's a fantastic little camera. My main gripe is just that when you're recording at 4K, it overheats within 5 minutes of recording, and it will not let you do any more. It's really frustrating because it takes ages to cool back down again. But on the whole, yeah, great bit of kit. Water cooling RX100, duh. Yeah, you're right. That is the sensible solution. Are you also into videography? I am to a point. It's kind of my job to be into it. So I have a cursory knowledge of cameras, lenses, and general videography practices, I suppose. So to a point, yes. Watercolor. I'm sure that there's a build somewhere that someone's done that. I know the main solution is you take it apart and put a big thermal pad between the PCB and the metal backplate to help dissipate heat better. Camera liquid cooling is a surprisingly effective thing to do. It is. It's just also very dangerous and also very time consuming and difficult because most cameras are not built to be water cooled. Yeah. SAP, it just started happening. Got you. So there are a great many things that could be a problem. It could be that the monitor itself is failing. You could try unplugging it from the wall, or unplugging the power adapter, leaving it off for 30 seconds to a minute, and then plugging it back in and seeing if that helps. If it does, then that would suggest that the monitor's power supply is on its way out. Otherwise, check that your graphics driver is working fine. Check that the cable isn't broken or damaged. DisplayPort cables, you can bend them relatively easily. So that's something to bear in mind. For example, if I order something that's $350, it will cost $1,400. Damn. Like, I know that that's in your currency, but that's also an insane, effectively, markup. Still need to learn the photography triangle. Probably, yeah. I've got the thirds down. That's about it. Hi, I have an issue with Windows 10 whenever I connect a Bluetooth audio device. The sound lags a lot. Could this be because I'm using an iMac and running Windows 10 Boot Camp? So there is a possibility of that. I would check within Windows that it has an up-to-date driver. You can do that in Device Manager. So you can check that out. But Yeah, I'm not sure. I did photography for my DV. Nice. I also did DV. I highly regret it. It'll look great on your CV. Starts company. That could very well be the case then, Sussep. I take it it's one of the ones that it's just a standard power cord rather than an external power brick that you can plug in. Because if it's an external power brick, then you have a chance of replacing just the power brick. But if it's internal, then unless you're willing to take it apart and replace the board yourself, it's probably potentially on its way out. Yeah, Duke of Edinburgh. It's a Duke of Edinburgh award. Bronze, silver, gold. Gold lets you have a access, like you go to a garden party with the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen and all that. I did bronze and silver. Also requires you to go on very long hikes in various parts of Britain with paper maps and no phones and things. I'm not selling it well, am I? Does it require crashing any SUVs? Oh dear. Sadly not. A quote from Morris Tractor Insurance: 750 excess, 82 total, £6 off for booking early. Fair play. I will. I'll have a look at that then. Fair play. How often should I give maintenance to my PC? It very much depends on the environment your PC's in. If it is, if your room is generally very dusty, then cleaning it out pretty regularly, once a week, once a month at most, is probably a good thing to do. If it is, what you call it? If it is in a relatively clean environment, then as long as it's staying clean, that's pretty much the only maintenance you need to do to your PC. So again, it really just depends on the environment. When will the RTX 3070 be affordable again? When stock exceeds demand, which is probably still a while away. You've officially put me off DAV, even though I have tons of opportunities to actually do it. Oops. Fans of filters can help localize dust. Positive pressure can help for the rest of the case. Technically, it can, in theory, yeah. And certainly, the having fan filters is a good idea for sure. But yeah, depends on the system. With that said, that is our usual hour. So thank you very much for tuning in. As always, I do these streams every Thursday night at 8 PM UK time. So if you want to pop back next week, feel free to do so. As always, there is a load of links in the description of the stream that you can check out for ways to support the channel and all that jazz. And yeah,